It's been well over a year since the invasion of southern Israel, when Hamas killed 1,200 Israelis, mostly civilians, and kidnapped another roughly 250 hostages, as well as the subsequent invasion of the Gaza Strip in an attempt to finally destroy Hamas. Since then, as of 2025, about 26,000 civilians have been killed in Gaza, along with 18,000 of Hamas's forces, per Israeli and independent estimates. This video won't dive into October 7th, but instead focus more on the beginning of the conflict, specifically Zionism and its creation, ending around 1948 with Israel's declaration of independence. According to Brookings, 80% of people don't know what Zionism is or have absolutely no opinion on it. So let's delve into the history and explain what Zionism actually means. When Mark Twain wrote this, anti-Semitism in Europe was experiencing another major boom. Jews were often scapegoated, blamed for the death of Jesus, leading to pogroms and other forms of violence, including legal, such as Russia's limits in schools and work. In 1800, Jews were at the bottom of society. There wasn't a single historically significant Jew in Western Europe in politics, education, or science. Yet, by 1900, despite constituting less than 1% of the population, they held high positions in all three. This only exacerbated anti-Semitism. Theodore Herzl noticed this and made a proposal to the Jewish people. Books like Rome and Jerusalem by Hess and Auto Emancipation by Pensker laid the groundwork for Herzl's book, titled The Jewish State, which took the world by storm. Earlier pitches for the idea of a national Jewish homeland failed to draw much attention, but Herzl took Europe by storm. He proposed the idea of a sovereign state for the Jewish people in their historic homeland of Palestine, the same place Jews originated from and prayed to daily. After the release of his book in 1896, a friend recommended he create a Zionist movement, and after 18 months of planning, the first Zionist Congress was born. Zionism, simply, is the call for a Jewish homeland. To explain why they chose Israel, it's incredibly important to note the Jewish history and presence in the region. The Jews originated around modern-day Jordan and Israel, and settled themselves in the land of Canaan. Canaan at the time was made up of numerous city-states, whom all paid tribute to Egypt, which governed them from what's today known as Gaza. God said to then Abram, later Abraham, "I will assign this land to your offspring," and Abraham made Canaan his home. This promise from God is the moment Israel became the promised land for the Jews. Near the end of the Bronze Age, the Middle East fell into chaos, and groups such as the Israelites, who had just emerged, took advantage and settled themselves in the region. Then around 1000 BC, the Kingdom of Israel was formed. After the death of Solomon, the peace within Israel came to a halt, as the new king, Rehoboam, refused to reduce the large taxes, leading the kingdom to split. In 730, after threatening Judah, Assyrians invaded Israel and Aram. However, Israel would continue to exist for another 2 decades. The Assyrians conquered Israel and forced out most of the Jews, many of whom went to Jerusalem and expanded the city. However, 10 tribes living in Samaria would slowly disappear, today known as the 10 Lost Tribes of Israel. All tribes except for Judah and Benjamin would vanish, either being deported, killed, or assimilated. Judah continued on, eventually becoming a vassal of the Babylonians. After a revolt in the 5th century BC, the Babylonians destroyed Jerusalem. The kingdom was continuously conquered by its larger neighbors until 64 BC, when the Romans conquered them and turned Judah into a vassal. About 100 years later, the Jews revolted, and the Romans completely destroyed both Jerusalem and the Second Temple. The Jews revolted twice more, in 115 and 132. The result was the Romans renaming the area to Syria-Palestina, in order to insult the Jews, alongside many being killed, exiled, or sold into slavery. In the year 390 AD, now Palestina fell under the control of the Byzantine Empire, who attempted to transform the area to Christianity. Scholars believe that this is when Jews first lost their status as the largest ethnic group in the region. Then, in the year 635, just 25 years after Muhammad created Islam, Muslims conquered the Levant. Just 40 years later, the Muslims then built 2 mosques on top of the Temple Mount, the site where both of the Jewish temples had once been located. After years of humiliation and discrimination by the Umayyads and Abbasids, the area was ultimately conquered by the Fatimids, who destroyed the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, Jesus' burial site. After years of Islamization and flight of the natives, the population of the region tanked from over 1 million to now less than 300,000. This was then followed by the Crusades, the Mamelukes, and the Ottomans, and speeding up a little bit, we find ourselves in the 1880s. After the First World War, the Ottoman Empire was carved up by the Turks, Brits, and French, and would soon become the independent state of Israel, which was taken over by the British Empire. The last Jewish state before today was the Maccabees, who revolted against the Greeks and created the first Jewish state in over 400 years, which is still celebrated today by Hanukkah. This was in 164 BC. That soon fell, and after the Third Revolt against the Romans in 135, the Jews would lose all political autonomy for nearly 2,000 years. At the Sixth Zionist Congress in 1903, it was proposed that they establish a home in the Uganda Protectorate, called, of course, the Uganda Plan. Supporter of this plan claimed that it would be just a stepping stone, and they would soon move to Palestine. The opposition was obviously fierce. What was the point of moving to Uganda if they were just going to move again soon? Many were also worried that if a state were established in Uganda, there would be no hope for a future in Palestine. Herzl realized that the Zionist Congress was split, and it stayed that way for the rest of history. It's never been united again. Even though the Uganda Plan faded and was forgotten, there would always be massive disagreement about the future of the Jewish people and their historic homeland. Before political Zionism, many Jews, especially from Russia and Yemen, were already emigrating to Palestine in the first Aliyah. The fourth Aliyah took place in 1929 in, of course, response to anti-Semitism. Afterward came the greatest cry for a Jewish state and the existence of one. During the period of 1929 and 1939, over 250,000 Jews fled Europe to Palestine due to the rise of extremist nationalism, especially German. Many Ethiopian Jews also marked their way to Israel. In 1937, the Peel Commission was issued. The Arabs were infuriated at the idea of a Jewish state, and after much debate in the 20th Zionist Congress, it was decided not to agree. In 1939, the British then issued the White Paper in response to Arab outrage, which basically restricted Jewish immigration to Palestine. And as the Holocaust raged on, many Jews found no place to go or flee to, resulting in nearly 6 million being killed. In Poland alone, nearly 90% of the Jews were killed. After the Second World War, in 1947, the UN drafted a partition plan for Palestine, where each new country would have a majority of their population being either Jewish or Arab, as well as the holy city of Jerusalem being an international zone. The Zionist Congress was quickly acceptive of this new offer, and the Arabs obviously rejected it. A few months after the UN accepted the resolution, and Israel declared independence, creating the first state for Jewish people in over 2 millennia. The initial receival of Zionism was mostly positive, but still mixed, receiving pushback from both Jews and Arabs. Many Jews thought that the return to Zion was premature without the Messiah, although they still wished to return and create a Jewish state. Arabs didn't want Jews to form a state at all, since they didn't want displacement of the Arabs already living in the region, and the Ottomans didn't want an independence movement within their own territory. Today, Zionism is best described as nothing more than a call for the Jewish people to have self-autonomy by having their own country.